Time she just got to hear me. She wake me. I was woken up by her busting me in my mouth with my phone. That's how I was woke up.
The whole fight was over being woken up?
No, once I walked out the room, I called my mom, I called the police. Once I walked out the room to go towards my daughter's room is when I was struck in the back of my head.
We are about to watch the parole revocation hearing for a woman who's been spending the last 6 months in jail for something that she doesn't feel she should even be locked up for. We're going to watch the entire hearing and then I'll unpack it at the end. But first, let's have our very own Orador walk us in to the hearing.
Oops, using my grip. It's
All right, the Committee on Parole is reconvening. We're at St. Tammany Parish Jail. It is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, and it is 11:29 a.m. My name is Cheryl Ranatza, serving as chairman today. My colleagues on the panel this morning, Mr. Danny Barra is to my left, Mr. Chucky Tillis is to my right. Now I can't see Dorissa. Can you, the camera, there we go, now I can see. We are at St. Tammany, as I said. Would the staff at St. Tammany please introduce yourself for the record?
Corporal Jonathan Lott.
Thank you, Corporal Lott, for accommodating us this morning. And I would like to ask the offender to please introduce herself and tell us her name and DOC number.
My name is Dorissa Gill. DOC number is 506042.
All right, good morning, Ms. Gill. We're here for a revocation decision this morning. And we're going to put up a revocation questionnaire on the screen. And I want you, anybody, we're going to put it back up.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize this one on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature at the bottom dated what, April 2nd of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Based on the information contained in that form, you're not eligible for appointed counsel. So are you ready to proceed this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to read the allegations against you and then we'll talk about what happened, okay?
Yes,
You have to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. So you're accused of violating condition number 4. It says you were arrested on November 5th, 2023 for the offense of domestic abuse battery. You pled guilty to disturbing the peace on March 4th, 2024. Yes. You were sentenced to serve 2 days in the parish jail, given credit for time served. So how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
Guilty.
By guilty?
Because I pled guilty to yes.
Guilty today, okay, to violating that condition. And then we have condition number 10, and it reads, you're currently $1,134 in arrears in your supervision fees. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Okay, so let's talk about what happened with the domestic abuse battery. Tell us what happened.
I was asleep. I just got off from work. I went to bed and I was waking up. Excuse me. I was woken up with my phone being hitting me in my mouth. My girlfriend at the time had to bust me in my mouth with my phone from something from social media. I got up from the bed. I grabbed my phone. I called my mom. Then I called the authorities. So I thought she walked out. So I went to go towards my daughter's room. That's why I was struck again from the back of my head. And at that point, I had to defend myself. She hit me very hard. So as she was trying to leave, I held her down. I sat on it because I wanted I wait for the police to get there. Unbeknown to me that I was going to be the one arrested and taken to jail. And I've been here ever since. So My lawyer found that she was already wanted from another county for the same charges. And she had charges against children, and they left her there with my daughter. And I was like, I was like, why was I being arrested when I was struck? I called the authorities in, I called my mom, and I was the one taken to jail. And I understood, yeah, because I caught the charge, I was in violation of my parole. But I thought, being that I was calling the authorities, I was the one endangered, why was I the one brought to jail? I defended myself and I was arrested.
Right. And, you know, I wanted to just mention the record shows that there was a prior call to your residence for a similar situation.
Yes.
Domestic situation.
No, it was, she was outside of my home, beating around the trailer, beating around the door. She drinks. And she gets like this, because I still to this day don't know what it was in my phone that had her wake me up with it to my mouth. I still don't know to this day what it could have been that she saw, but she had the drinking problem. And this one particular time, I just put the chair behind the front door. I was not letting her into my home, and she beat around, and she calls.
Okay, well, that's not really relevant to today. I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention there was it seems to be another episode.
Yeah.
So the reason that she got upset, according to what we see in the record, had to do with some texting.
Social media, I don't know, something from the phone. Yes.
And the record also indicates that both of you and her were intoxicated that day. I had been drinking all day.
No, ma'am. I just got off from a 12-hour shift from work and was going to do my daughter's hair, and I asked her to wait till the morning. I went to sleep. I talked to my sister and I went to sleep. I was woken up with this. I was not intoxicated. I was probably dazed up from being woken up that way, but I was not intoxicated. I just got off from a 12-hour shift.
Right. And all this occurred in the presence of your daughter. She was 15 at the time.
Yes.
So the victim, the other party to this,
Yes.
is Miss Bennett.
Yes.
And do you still have a relationship with Miss Bennett?
No, well, she's still trying to contact my family. Every time I talk to someone, she done called them. I asked my sister to block her. They didn't put her on block. She creates numbers, they call them again. I have no nothing with it. After March 4th, when I went to court on March 4th, from November to March 4th, I hadn't spoken with her. And she was trying to tell me something in the courtroom. So I called her March 4th. And something was said, brought back all the familiarities, brought back everything that I knew I didn't want to deal with. And that was it from that point. But other than that, no, ma'am.
There was some indication in the record when you were arrested that she didn't want to pursue charges against you.
Right. She also said that in the courtroom when they wanted her to give a victim statement, she was telling them from December 20 that that's not what she was trying to pursue, what the DA was trying to pursue because of my prior history, which I'm avoiding that. I hadn't nothing in my life was gonna lead me back to jail. I came home with a whole different person and was working, trying to get my child back into my custody, trying to take care of child support and all that. I actually got a job. You know, I was trying to do everything right.
So let's talk about that. You mentioned that you were sleeping because you came home from work after
Yes,
working
ma'am.
on the shift. But tell us why you're behind in your fees.
I have $20,000 in child support arrears from being incarcerated. I owe the state $9,000. My taxes since I've been home has been taken by the state. Child support comes out of my check, and I still owe arrears for the times of me being incarcerated. So with that, and then my stepdad helped me get a place to live because it was hard for me to find anywhere to rent with my background. So I was paying $800 for that, light bills, and still trying to keep my daughter under the roof with me, fighting for that at the same time.
It's the 15-year-old you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the one you're paying child support for?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I also look at the record and I see, we know what your original charge was, and there you have been revoked on previous occasions. You're a third offender, and I see at least 3 revocations. What would be different with today?
today, what would be different from those previous ones is I'm a different person. When I was released from prison this last time, I came home with a game ball. I had it all set up, planned. 9 days of me being released from prison, I had a job that they said I couldn't have. I had that job. I worked that job. I kept myself busy, and nothing I was doing was gonna lead me back. I changed my people, my places, my friends. I had none of that. I did everything I needed to do to get my daughter, to have a home, to provide for her, to just be back how I needed to be. What would be different with this is that I am that person who I've made myself to be this last go around. I am living my life to be better for my child, for myself, and for everyone else around me. I am not the same person I was back when I started at 19. I am not that person. No longer am I a monster. I am a different person trying to live my life better. I had a job, something I didn't do since 19, maybe. I don't know. I was just, my life was different, and I wanted better for me and my daughter. You know,
What is the job? What job did you get?
I was a caregiver. I was taking care of the elderly.
And that suits,
Yes.
that suits you, like, it's rewarding for you?
Yes, it is. And after the second, I was caregiver of the quarter in my second month of being there. So yes, I love it. And that's yes.
Daughter, where's your 15-year-old daughter? Where's she stay?
Well, she right now she's by my mom. She goes back and forth between my mom and her dad. My mom is who has the custody of her, and that's where the child support and stuff came in. But her dad, back and forth between my mom and her dad. And the last time when I was home, it was a work in progress. And I was like climbing them stairs of having her. And it's just, I made one wrong decision. I chose something to be a part of that path that she wasn't a part of my plan. And I chose that, and that here I am, rock bottom again.
Okay, any questions, our colleagues?
Not much, but I can't tell you why you were arrested. I was looking through the police report, and it says, according to Moore, she was awoken by the sound of Guild yelling. Moore placed headphones on her ears and ignored them. The argument continued. Somehow they ended up in Moore's bedroom. While in the room, Moore, Guild, and Bennett yelled, and Bennett was asking for help calming Guild down. They exited Moore's room and went into the living room. Once in the living room, Moore observed Guild push, punch, and kick Bennett. Moore also observed Bennett laying on her back with Guild on top of her, striking her repeatedly. So that's how you got arrested.
By that time, I had been struck so hard in the back of my head. When my daughter was awoken, I was struck so hard in the back of my head, I went into straight defense mode. I was trying to keep her there. I wanted her to be arrested. I was trying to keep her there. With her going into my daughter's room, coming back into my daughter always had her headphones on. She was awake until I was yelling. Time she just got to hear me. She wake me. I was woken up by her busting me in my mouth with my phone. That's how I was woke up.
The whole fight was over being woken up?
No, once I walked out the room, I called my mom, I called the police. Once I walked out the room to go towards my daughter's room is when I was struck in the back of my head. That's when the fight took place.
You're saying you didn't start the fight, you just participated in the fight?
I did not start the fight, I was asleep.
All right.
All right, anything you want to say to wrap it up for us?
I was just praying for the opportunities. I was doing better with my life. I made a decision to choose somebody that didn't belong into my life. I'm asking for the opportunity to do better. I was doing better. I've changed who I was, everything about my life, what it was before. It was a dark area, and now I'm looking at a light. The light was so much brighter for me this round. I changed everything about who I was the last time I was released from prison. I got a job, something I didn't think I was going to do ever.
How long you been in jail?
I was across this time 6 months.
Right, you've been in jail 6 months?
This time, yes. But
all right, I move for an executive session. Can I get a second?
A second.
And could we do the roll call?
Cheryl Renata.
Yes.
Danny Bara.
Yes.
Chuck Tillis.
Yes.
Ms. Gill, we'll be in executive session for just a few moments to discuss confidential matters.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, shit.
Okay, we are back in regular session. It's 11:46. Ms. Gill, we are prepared to vote. I'll be voting first. I'm a little concerned about the way you handle this whole situation, particularly with your daughter present. Although I am impressed that you initiated, contact with law enforcement and your mother should have walked out the house, should have left. However, you pled guilty to what? Disturbing the peace. You got sentenced to 2 days. You've been in jail for 6 months. So my vote today will be do not revoke. However, add special conditions that you want when you release, that you do enroll and complete an anger management class, and that you have absolutely no contact with Ms. Bennett ever.
Yes, ma'am.
My vote. I'm just one. I'll ask Mr. Barra for his vote.
I'm gonna vote with the exact same special conditions. That relationship is toxic. You need to stay away from them.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tillis.
I concur with my colleagues.
All right. The light's still shining bright. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Well,
The light's still shining bright. A little bit of humanity from Miss Renata, empathy. I'm not sure, but I have nothing, I guess, in terms of unpacking to share with you, which I'm always sorry not to. But there's nothing on this, which is pretty typical for these type of things. She doesn't have any major cases that got her locked up, so we don't even know. She was about to get into what her original crime was. But yeah, I mean, what is there to say? I was thinking about this while watching it, and for whatever reason, I just felt less animosity towards her than I would for other DV cases. If, for example, if she was a man, you just feel, and this is not, I get this is not the correct thing to say. So I don't know, hit me hard in the comment section, I guess. But to me, it just feels different. I didn't have the same animosity towards her. Maybe it's a good food for thought type of thing when you have, I guess, same sex on same sex DV versus, I think of a man sitting, the way it was described from, I think it was her daughter who described it in the police report that they went over. It sounded vicious. And the thing is in these DV things is that it's, you never know what you're getting when you're listening to the person who's in prison. You don't know what you can believe. Of course, she has her story. Then you have the other story from the police report. But if she was actually, imagine if she was saying the truth and she actually was working and she comes home and getting rudely awakened by your, significant other. And of course, it never excuses what she then did. Never does. And she's in prison. She spent 6 months in prison. And normally it doesn't, you don't wait that long for revocation. But because of what was happening with the new governor coming in and the old board leaving, and they were rushing in all of those unique commutation hearings, they're trying to get all those people off the death row, and it threw everything off. And I think that's why we waited so long. But she gets 2 days in jail for her crime, and it could have simply only been 2 days because she got I forget that they mentioned the day. It could have been before a weekend, so she spent 2 days, and then, but then she gets revoked. And man, 6 months. That's a pretty long time to sit in jail. I'm happy that they didn't revoke her, but again, it's an interesting food for thought exercise. What I brought up, I personally just don't feel the same animosity, but I hear the argument where you could say, "Man, dude, it doesn't. Someone's an abuser. Someone's an abuser," and then I guess you can go to the next point: is this, do you believe her story or not? Hopefully, we don't see her again, but it is a unique case, and I have nothing else to share. So love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I always like to unpack these interesting scenarios, and it's like a good debate. I think it's a good topic of debate, and I am open to being swayed in any direction right now. And with that, I'll let you go.
You were sentenced in East Carroll Parish for a first-degree murder conviction. Original sentencing was in February 1971. You received a death sentence. Then you were resentenced in April 1983 to life. Mr. Dillon, is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, would you answer Mr. Freeman's question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Dillard, how old are you?
71,
Okay, and how many years have you been incarcerated?
about 43,
43?
53. My mistake.
Yeah,
53.
Okay.
That's my mistake. 53.
Okay, and as Ms. Renata stated, that you went from a death penalty to a life penalty. What's your educational level?
8th grade.
Okay, have you ever tried to get your GED since you've been in there?
I started to, but I couldn't get no help through the preacher. Let me see. Through the teacher.
Teacher, okay. Have you ever enrolled? You said you couldn't get help from the teacher. Did you enroll in the class?
I had class, but you still, when I asked him for something, help me out with something, he wouldn't do it.
Warden Falco, has he ever been enrolled in GED program? Can you see him correct?
It looks at in July of 14, they had tested him on tape. His scores were rather low, anywhere.
I just want to know if he was enrolled. If he,
Yeah, he was, yes, sir.
Thank you, Warden Falco. Okay, tell us a little bit more about what happened. What did you do to get yourself in prison?
Well, I was broke in a person's house, then attacked my house, and I plan on robbing her. And she pulled a gun on me, and I took the gun and I shot her.
Okay, what else happened in that house? How did you try to dispose of the body? What did you do?
No, I panicked and I went out the house, I left the house.
So you didn't dismember or try to burn the body?
Nope.
So how did she get set on fire?
And
You don't-
the heaters that she had hooked up, that would start the fire.
All right, At first you said you witnessed it, but it didn't commit it, so you're now saying you did commit this murder.
Yep.
Okay, you've had 3 prior clemencies, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, none of them have been approved. In law enforcement, you have opposition from the DA, the chief. The sheriff is unopposed. Your brother's unopposed, your sister is unopposed. And your niece, Miss Gold, is unopposed. No, that's the victim, they are opposed. And Susan Tatum is opposed. And the nephew is strongly opposed, Mr. Douglas Tatum. So you do have opposition to this, and yet, like I said, the sheriff said he was unopposed. What else have you been convicted of? I see you're a second felony offender. What was your other conviction for?
National purse. National purse.
You stole a purse snatching?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, classes, what classes have you taken?
I haven't taken any.
Issue.
Which one?
Thinking for a change, did you?
Looking for a change, right?
What did that teach?
On the hour.
What did thinking for a change teach, Mr. Dillard? What did thinking for a change teach you?
Mr. Freeman, while they're looking over here, he's also enrolled in anger management right
All right, right now, yes, thank you, Lord.
now. Yes.
So, Mr. Dillard, what did thinking for a change teach you?
Thank you for the change.
What did it teach? What did you learn in that course?
Had me, teach me to stop and think why decided what I want to do.
Just talk to them. Talk to them.
Thank you for the change. I stopped thinking, why do anything to anybody.
Okay, were you a tier walker? I see you took tier walker training.
Yes, sir.
Okay. A low risk, your custody is minimum. You have a fair institutional record, which you have 12 write-ups, which your last was over 10 years ago in 2012. Where are you gonna live if you get out?
Las Vegas, my brother. At least.
Okay, like going to the parole project?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Mr. Rachel?
Yes.
Questions?
Good morning, Mr. Dillon. How are you?
More, all right.
Good. Tell this panel exactly what happened the day that you broke into Miss Tatum's home.
Mr. Dillard, tell them what happened when you broke into Miss Tatum's home.
I broke in Miss Tavern home. Well, I grabbed her, but she had pulled a gun on me, and I shot her.
Okay. Now, I had the police report right in front of me, Mr. Dillon. Tell me exactly what happened.
Well, like I said, I broke in the house, and she pulled a gun on her, and I grabbed the gun and shot her.
I'm gonna read you a little bit from the police report, okay?
All right.
Before dawn on Sunday, May 17, 1970, Miss Ann Tatum, an elderly lady residing in Lake Providence was beaten, dragged across the street, raped, abused in an isolated area behind a garage or warehouse. Then she was dragged back into her home. She was mutilated and placed on the bed.
No, sir. Nothing like that. True facts, nothing like that, sir.
Okay, so I'm just reading this from the original police report. And you said that didn't happen.
No, sir.
Last, there were witnesses saying that they heard her call for help. And she was beaten, dragged, raped, and mutilated. And none of this ever happened.
None of that happened, sir.
Thank you, sir.
That's only true.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so let's hear from the folks who are here in support, and that would be Mr. Myers with the parole project.
Yes, good morning, Terry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Dillard is 18 years old at the time of this meeting. And, in the 53 years, he's actually would be considered a 10-6 lifer, not eligible under Act 544 because he did not plead guilty into trial. But he does fall into that class. He's been a Class A trustee for more than 30 years. He's worked his way into a position after coming to Angola at a time when it was a much different place than it is now, where programming, where the ability to go to school, to do all the things that you see today just didn't exist. So what he did is he did what a lot of people at that time did. He made himself valuable. He made himself valuable as a worker. He made himself valuable as someone who could be trusted. And that's exactly what he did. And up until just recently, until he received that, he was still not valuable in the institution. His disciplinary record is excellent. Someone who's been there 53 years. Parole Project is prepared to provide him transitional support. His long-term plan is to live with his brother in Las Vegas. This is a very stable situation. The family is looking forward to having him. Parole Project will, while he's with Parole Project, will make sure that he has all the transitional tools that he needs before he makes that next step. And we would just ask that Mr. Dillard be granted today.
Thank you. Mr. Dillard, before I turn it over to Mr. MacArthur, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board?
Well, I made a big change, the way I live.
Okay. All right, Mr. MacArthur.
Thank you, members of the board. Mr. Billy Dillard, he grew up in an unstable environment. He moved often around towns in Northeast Louisiana. He dropped out of school in the 8th grade. And after that, he had to do work doing manual labor to earn a little money to help his family. Mr. Dillard had to grow up very fast with little oversight or support. That doesn't excuse anything that he did, but it can help to explain it. Mr. Dillard was incarcerated at the Louisiana State Penitentiary when he was 19 years old. And after years on death row, he was released into the general population. He began working and eventually he was given work positions with some responsibility and some autonomy. And for the first time, he had some real structure in his life. He showed that he could be reliable, he could be hardworking and trustworthy. Over time, with that structure in place, he applied himself to work, to programming, and along with his faith and the Church of Christ community here at State Penitentiary, Mr. Dillard was able to change within. Today, he's not the same person as he was 51 years ago. He's learned to think before he acts. He stays away from conflict. And until his eyesight became poor, he continued to work and participate in programs. If he's granted clemency, Mr. Dillard will move into another environment that gives him the same structure for success. He'll initially stay with the Parole Project. He'll be set up with Medicaid and treatment for his eyes. He'll be set up with supplemental security income and a phone and all necessary reentry programming. And after that, he'll move in with his brother, Mr. Jones, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mr. Jones is a retired auto mechanic. He's lives in a nice home, beautiful home in a nice, vibrant neighborhood. And along with that, Mr. Dillard will have the support of his brother and his brother's family and friends. Mr. Dillard has demonstrated that with structure in place, he can be and will be successful, and that he poses no further danger to society. And Mr. Dillard prays for a recommendation for clemency. Thank you, members of the board.
Sorry, thank you. I think we are prepared to vote, and Mr. Freeman will be voting first.
Okay, Mr. Dillard, needless to say, I don't think you were quite honest about these events, but they were 53 years ago. And it's our job to look at where you are now and what kind of threat you would propose for society. And Due to the warden's comments and the length of time served, I vote to grant your computation of sentence and commute your sentence to 75 years with immediate parole eligibility.
Thank you, Mr. Roche.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Based upon your age and length of incarceration, I vote to commute your sentence 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
Mr. Randolph.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Dillard, I've listened to you extensively. You're 71 years old. You've been in prison for 52 and a half years. Excellent comments by the warden. You've got a good transition plan, low risk. I agree with Mr. Freeman. My vote would be to recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence to 75 years with immediate parole. Good luck to you.
And Mr. Dillard, I do also concur with my colleagues. My vote today is the same, to commute your sentence to 75 years with a recommendation for immediate parole eligibility. So that is the recommendation we'll make on your behalf, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am surprised that Mr. Roche granted, maybe it's only because there are 4 board members for the commutation, and this is kind of part where things get a little bit, sketchy, where maybe they just wanted to let him go. He served so much time. He's been there that long, but I mean, he straight up lied in his hearing. You hear what he tells Mr. Pete Freeman, and then finally Mr. Roche calls him out for what really happened. And when you hear what he did, it's like, are you kidding me? He was given the death penalty and it was overturned. We have a lot of information. We'll go through a little bit of it, but my understanding is that it was over. There were a lot of different cases that were overturned because Louisiana was not allowing. They were keeping it as an all-white jurors for basically all these trials, and that's part of how a lot of these were overturned. I don't know what Kerry Myers was referencing to with the 10-6 lifer thing, because he didn't have a 10-6 lifer deal. And for those of you who aren't familiar, there was Louisiana, another really just terrible thing. There was that Louisiana was signing deals called 10-6. You would serve 10 years and 6 months and get out. And they were signing them like hotcakes so that they could avoid trial. And then Louisiana, at the end of like about 10 years, they basically changed their mind, or 8 years or 7 years into whatever it was. They said, nah, actually, all those deals we signed, no, you're just going to get life. That's a true thing. That actually happened in Louisiana. So you had hundreds, if not more, of inmates that thought they were only going to serve 10 years, 6 months that are now serving life. So that was something else that was overturned. But I don't know, again, how Kerry's referencing to that. He was given a death penalty. And then I like to point this out, too, for whenever we hear those who argue the death penalty, they say, no. When they want to get them off the death penalty, because we saw those commutation hearings happening. And their attorneys would get up and say, just take him off the death row. He's never going to get out. It's just he has a better life off a death row. He gets to be in general population. It's a better life. No one needs to worry about him getting out. And that's just not true, because we have seen probably more than 5 times now, easily, where someone had been on death row in Louisiana, got commuted from life, and then got paroled. So just like to point that out. Now, he was granted a commutation hearing, but what's interesting about this is I don't believe the governor granted the commutation hearing. This hearing took place in 2023. Now, it is possible because it took place. It could be the governor did sign it and grant it, and now we're going to see him come up for a parole hearing. So that is possible. But he hasn't yet been paroled. He's still in prison. Now, it is possible the governor, before he left, paroled him. And I'm sorry, signed the commutation, and then we'll see him maybe this year for a parole hearing. But let's just jump in. So what he did, and Richard has in the notes, it looked like a revenge killing, and it probably was, because he had robbed her for a second time. So he had robbed her, got caught, went to prison, got out, and then robbed her again and killed her and sexually assaulted her and burnt her. This was, it was a targeted event. So here it is, and I wonder if he lied about the purse snatching. Remember, Mr. Freeman said, "What was your previous crime?" Oh, purse snatching. Well, it probably was this. Approximately 2 years before her murder, Dillard pled guilty to attempted burglary of her home. In both crimes, the same investigating officer found that the same screen had been removed from the same window. The same window had been tampered with, and the telephone wires had been separated in the same manner. The state courts admitted the evidence of the earlier crime and guilty plea because the similarity of the two methods helped to identify the defendant as the perpetrator of the offense charged. Of course, you can argue, you can say, well, I mean, anyone could have broken, blah, 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 but it's, I think it's likely it was him, right? It's crazy. I don't know. To me, it's there still was victim opposition, at least written down. What was unique about this actually is that the sheriff wasn't opposed. That's unique because it's just a blanket statement. The sheriff is always opposed. I mean, there might have been fewer than like 2 cases that I can think of where the sheriff wasn't opposed. So that was strange. But I don't know. They granted the commutation, and we'll probably see him up for a parole hearing sometime soon, which maybe the new board won't parole him. But it does shock me that he comes in and really just lying about the entire crime, not taking accountability, but they just want to release him. And again, it's the whole parole project thing, the whole idea of relieving the cost from the penitentiary, which is publicly traded. There's lobbyists that want this to happen. This is the reason the parole project exists, because you're moving tax dollars from one place to another. It's off the balance sheet of, the state. It becomes cheaper for the publicly traded company because an aging inmate is incredibly expensive. So sometimes you just have to follow the money. Just my opinion. And with that, we'll move to the next hearing.
First of all, I find that you are a second-class offender currently serving a 10-year sentence for molestation of a juvenile. You have a parole eligibility date, December 22nd, 2022. Good time date, 9/9/2026, and a full term date of 4/23/2027. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to be taking the lead on asking some questions. So in reviewing this incident, you were initially placed on probation. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they found you in Colorado. Help me understand what happened from the time you went on probation till you absconded to Colorado.
Yes, ma'am. When I was first released, I was in Louisiana, in West Monroe. I was awaiting for my probation to be transferred to Texas. And when that was completed, I moved to Texas. And because of some poor decisions on my part, I was struggling with holding a job and moving forward. And then I started getting some warnings from my probation officer. And I made some poor decisions and decided to abscond to Colorado, and was trying to just live there without taking any responsibility for my probation.
What did you learn from that experience?
I learned that I was making some very poor decisions and that I was handling it in a very immature and irresponsible way. And ultimately it would only lead to, my life going downhill and ending up incarcerated and not learning from my mistakes.
Run, but you can't hide. So, who were you staying with in Texas? What was your support system there?
I was staying in a motel. My father was providing financial support while I was trying to obtain and hold a job to support myself.
And so they extradited you back to Louisiana, and you have been incarcerated how long now?
Almost 6 years.
Okay. During your time in, you have taken a few classes, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
So those classes, did you complete your sex offender treatment? I see that you took some of that. Which ones have you taken and completed?
I've taken cognitive behavior intervention for employment, anger management, and risk management. I have not taken the sex offender treatment yet. In fact, it was my hope that I could be recommended to that program so that on completion of that program, I could receive my parole, because I believe that program would be a huge help to help me get back on the right track.
Okay. And at Caldwell, they don't offer that.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my colleagues at this time. Do either of you want to have a statement or ask a question? Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Mr. Andrew, do you take responsibility for your actions?
Yes, sir. I am completely responsible for my actions. I made some very poor decisions.
Okay. Whether she was your stepsister?
My adopted sister, sir.
Your adopted sister. Okay, I know she's passed away now, but what would you say today if you could talk to her? What would you tell her?
I would tell her that I'm terribly sorry for what I did and how it affected her life and made things difficult for her emotionally and mentally. And I wish I could take it back, but I can't.
I have no further questions.
Stapleton, do you have any questions?
Mr. Drumright, I think, like you said yourself, that the sex offender classes are something that you need to complete. And I'm glad that you mentioned it. And so I agree completely with what you just said.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Drumright, your father, to provide some comments to the board in support. So if you'll please state your name and your relationship, Mr. Drumright, we'll go to you now. Are you on mute?
Yeah, sorry, I had to hit a button.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's Jim Drumright. I'm Andrew's father. And I support whatever next appropriate moves the board believes. I believe Andrew's he has shared his remorse with me over not just this, but everything involved in the circumstances and what's gone on over the years prior, between his skipping out on his parole and coming back, and then also the events that led to the original sentencing. So I believe he's ready for the next step.
Where would he live if he gets out? Is he gonna be in a motel? Is he gonna be with you? Where is he gonna be?
I've made arrangements with an organization that's in Monroe, Louisiana, to serve out the remainder of his, whatever the parole period is. I think it'd be 2 or 3 years. And, they would provide housing, assisting with employment. They work with former offenders. I think it's listed in his paperwork. I believe we provided the name and address.
Free indeed.
I have.
Thank you, sir, for making those comments. Appreciate it. I did not even bring up the issue that happened at Walmart. I just need to ask you, during that time, were you having some difficulty with mental health?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you had a mental health evaluation?
Since being incarcerated, no.
Okay. Okay. So there are 2 pieces here that we're seeing that may need to be filled in, right? So why don't you give your statement to the board and tell us what you think at this time?
I believe that in addition to receiving that program, I also could benefit from, I believe the place where I would be going has counseling as well. And my long-term goal when I get out is to pursue managing my depression and anxiety with medication. And also, I would like to thank y'all for taking the time to hear my case. I do appreciate it. And my long-term goal is during my time on parole to save up some money to get my own place. And I want to complete the entirety of my parole in Louisiana. And then I plan to save up enough money and get a plan to move to Washington State where my brother and mother are living and return to college.
I'd like to ask the warden. I can't see you, so I don't know if you can hear me.
Transition specialist.
Excuse me, the transition specialist. If we want to send him to another facility to get his sex offender treatment, would you be able to facilitate that, or are you going to have difficulty doing that?
I believe it would be easier if that was something that y'all added in the recommendation. Then it would be an automatic process for him to be transferred at the next availability to buy you door sheet.
Okay, so are you saying that without it being ordered, that you could not do it?
Without it being ordered, he will not be able to go to that program until his last year and a half or so. That's typically when they have to do it, at least within their last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I would like to go into an executive session for a moment to talk about some confidential information. If the board is acceptable to that.
I'll second.
Steve?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. We'll be right back. Sorry. It's 9:47 and we're returning from executive session. Mr. Drumright, I really have appreciated you owning responsibility for your actions, for identifying some of the needs that you have. We do have some law enforcement opposition to your release. We do have in our record your risk assessment score is still moderate, and I believe that's because you need some more treatment. Sir, at this time, I am going to deny your request for parole, but strongly recommend that you are moved to a DOC facility that has sex offender treatment and mental health evaluation.
Sure. Don't want that to discourage you. I think you've got a good long-range plan. But I think that's what the next step should be. Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman?
I concur, 100%. Pay attention to these sections in the classes, reapply when everything is done. And we'll see where you are at that point in your life.
And Ms. Stapleton?
I concur with my colleagues, everything they said.
All right, Mr. Drumright, you've got something to look forward to then. You've got some, hopefully a transfer and some treatment, okay? Thank you very much. Your parole has been denied.
Busy call.
Okay, so it's 9:49, and that is our last hearing at Caldwell, so we're going to adjourn there. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping Miss Stapleton, the victim's advocate, was going to speak on behalf of the victim who's now deceased. And it's only, I mean, we don't know. We have no details. There's no information. There's nothing we can find. It just saddens me that there's no victim voice here. We have a poor girl who's now deceased. Don't know how old she was. But, you know, this is obviously it's a huge problem with children are adopted and so often abused, but in this case by her older brother who, you know, now he's 31 years old about, and at the time he would have been, I guess when he was convicted in 2016. I'm not great at math. Is that 8 years ago? Would have been in his early 20s. Do have information about the fire. I'll just read it for you. It includes an address, so I'm not going to screen share it, but it says a West Monroe man was accused of arson after he allegedly set several paper towel rolls on fire inside of the Walmart. Thank you, Richard, for sharing this. He admitted to setting approximately 20 paper towel rolls on fire in aisle 22 and 24. So he's this, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot of smoke. That's a lot of fire. I mean, I get West Monroe police arrived at the scene. He denied setting the fire, but later admitted it. He said he set the fire because he was dealing with personal problems and he had a bad week. A black Zippo lighter was also found when he was searched. The officer wrote that when he walked into the Walmart, he could see the grocery area filling up with smoke. The fire was put out by employees with a fire extinguisher. Now, this happened in 2015. He was convicted of his other crime in 2016. Again, we have no information on it because it's just a child, right? But he was given probation. A judge gave him probation, again, because he's just a child. So imagine being the adopted daughter, adopted sister, right? And then the judge just says, what's the big deal? I'll give you probation. The guy absconds, and then he gets locked up, so he has to serve his 10 years. It's just, you know, you can't make this stuff up, right? Can't make this stuff up. But there it is. I mean, we're kind of numb to this. We see it all the time. You know, at least I think to give his father credit, his father wasn't all gushy and, you know, head in the sky. He seemed to be pretty grounded while still trying to be a supportive father. That was my takeaway, and I'll give him props for that. We don't often see that. So I think props is due, right? He seemed to, he said, I'm okay with whatever the board seems fit, right? He didn't say he's a role model. He's the pillar of the family. He's dealt his actions and consequences. And I thought he was pretty grounded. So anyways, that's my thoughts, and we'll move to the next hearing.
Good morning again. We're ready to hear our second offender today. We are still at Bayou Doche Correctional Center, same staff in both locations. Sir, my name is Jerry Ledoux. I'm chairing today. To my left is Carolyn Stapleton. To my right is Pete Freeman. Could you please state your name and your DOC number for the record?
Chrismon Robinson, and I don't remember my DOC number, ma'am.
If anybody in the room can confirm 765537.
That appears to be correct.
Okay. Sir, you are currently a second-class offender. You're serving a 5-year sentence for the crime of indecent behavior with juvenile. You came back to us as a failure to register and to serve your 5-year sentence. You have a parole eligibility date, February 4th, 2024. You're not eligible for good time, and you have a release date of 11/17/2025. Is that correct according to your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask this, well, I just want to make note, there is no one in opposition or support today in this case. Ms. Stapleton, if you'd like to begin the interview.
Yes, sir. I've got some questions I want to ask you. First of all, I want clarification on your classes. What classes have you taken?
I've taken anger management, empathy and awareness, and I'm currently taking risk management. I'm in just made it to phase 4.
Okay. What about the sex offender treatment classes?
I think that's the risk management class.
That's risk management?
Yes.
Okay, that's the same. Okay. So you finished those classes or you?
No, ma'am, I'll be finished with, I take my last test in risk management July 11th, and I graduate July 26th.
Okay, okay. That was something, that I was very interested in, obviously. You had a revocation. I'm going to read to you basically what it said. On January the 4th of 2022, you appeared at the 3rd Judicial Court in Lincoln Parish. You were sentenced to 5 years hard labor, which was suspended. You were placed on a 3-year probation for indecent behavior with a juvenile. While on probation, your conduct was very poor. You never reported to Monroe Probation and Parole, and you failed to register as a sex offender with the Sheriff's Office, Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office. On February the 3rd, 2022, you were subsequently arrested by Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office for failure to register. And on May the 3rd, 2022, you appeared back in the district court there for your probation violation hearing, which you admitted to the violation, and your probation was subsequently revoked. And the original sentence of 5-year hard labor was reimposed. Does that sound correct to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you not do the things you were supposed to do? Because look, you only were out 3 months and boom, you're back in.
See, when I was contacting, I didn't get in contact with my probation officer. I was talking to the probation supervisor, Mr. McFarland, and it was hard for me to register because I didn't have an address at the time. And when I finally got an address, I went to register, and that's when they arrested me.
Okay. Well, you should know that you have strong law enforcement opposition.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've answered my question about the sex offender classes, so I'm going to pass it along to Mr. Green.
I have no question.
Mr. Robinson, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, ma'am. I just like to say that I know I made a mistake, and I'm paying for it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to get everything straightened out. And I know this caused stress and hurt on my family and me and the victim, and I'm truly sorry, and I just hope everything goes well.
For the record, your victim is opposed. This time, Ms. Stapleton, you began our question. Would you prepare that?
I am. At this time today, I'm gonna deny your request, and it's based upon law enforcement opposition and opposition.
Mr. Freeman?
My vote is to deny, but it's for you to complete that, sex offender treatment. We need to get that out the way before you reapply.
Yes, sir.
I believe that, Mr. Robinson, your success will be in having the completion of the sex offender class. You also have a moderate risk assessment at this point. So my vote today is to concur and deny. So your parole has been denied, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The time is now 10:23, and sorry if y'all don't have anything further for the board today, then we're going to close out our hearing. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Sadly, also we have nothing to share on this. It's actually like the least amount of information that we've ever been able to find here on this case. It's you know, sometimes that happens, but he has the indecent behavior of the juvenile, then he has the failure to register, so now he's serving his time, he's going to do his programs, he gets out, but we have no idea. Again, there's no voice for the victims here, which is upsetting to me, and I don't know why they do that. Is it because they just feel that, you know, I have so much respect for Miss Stapleton, so I'm sure she has her reason behind it. The reason that I've seen so much information on Miss Stapleton, like she's a true crime advocate, like it's her life, it's what she does, and I'll show you the footage of her testifying, which will paint the same picture. You know, maybe certain cases she just doesn't feel that it's warranted to bring it up, especially when I guess a denial was imminent. I don't know, but we don't have any. We don't know how old she was. Don't know, any of those details. So we'll move to the next hearing, and we're keeping a track of these hearings, anyways. I'm showing it to you and recording it and documenting it because he probably will come up for parole sometime, and unless he just gets released with his full time. I think his full time actually might be, let's see, 2025. So we might not see him again, actually. November 17, 2025. But if we do see him again, if he's revoked again, for example, then we come back to this hearing, we tie it all together, and it's about creating a story and a trail. So with that, we'll move to the next hearing.
As a first offender, offenses: distribution of marijuana, distribution of methamphetamines. Sentencing date is February 1st, 2021. First sentence is 3 years of DOC. The other sentence is 3 years DOC, sentence to run concurrent. Parole date is August 23rd, 2021. Good time is December 11, 2021. Full term is November 23rd, 2023. Is this information correct?
It's possession with intent to distribute marijuana and distribution of meth.
Okay. Ms. Jackson.
Good afternoon, Ms. Fobb. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. You're a first offender. You have drug distribution charges. You're 29 years old, and you have 5 children. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much education have you had?
I graduated from the youth challenge program with my GED.
Okay, and when was that?
2009.
Okay. What kind of work have you done?
I've worked cashiering at the dollar store. I've did waitressing. I've bartended.
Okay. Tell me about your history of drug use.
Well, I started when I was 19, 18, doing meth, and it kind of just got worse and worse over the years.
Is meth the only thing that you abuse?
Yes, well, I was smoking marijuana too.
Okay. Have you ever undergone any kind of substance abuse treatment?
Well, I did like the little 30-day inpatient at Fairview a couple years back.
Okay.
Never really.
Interesting that you referred to it as that little program, which seems that you don't give it much weight.
Well, I mean, it really just depends on you when it comes down to it. Like, I feel like if you're not really ready for it, no program's really gonna work for you. You really have to be ready to change,
So what makes you feel like you're ready to change?
Well, over the past 7 months, I've been incarcerated. I realized how much it affected more the people around me than me myself, like my children missing me, my mom having to do everything that I should be doing, things like that. And it makes me really just want to be the mother I'm supposed to be and just get clean. I feel better, I look better, just all together.
How old are your children?
My oldest is 11, 7, 6, 3, and 2. Well, my son's birthday is in 3 days. He'll be 2.
Okay. And your mom has had the responsibility of taking care of those kids, correct?
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
And apparently she had to kind of take on that responsibility even when you weren't in jail. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am, while I was using. Yes, ma'am. They were with her whenever I was using. Well, I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there, like I should have been.
My point is, you've had these kids for a long time,
Yes, ma'am.
and that wasn't enough to stop you from using. So why would we believe all of a sudden the fact that you have 5 kids would have any impact on your drug use?
Well, I'm ready to change, been working the steps in my recovery Bible, and I feel like I learned my lesson.
What kind of programs have you been involved in during your incarceration?
Well, I've requested to be in some of the self-help programs, but they're not available here due to the COVID. And then I put in a request to be transported to a facility that was doing them during the COVID, but they said that they weren't transporting. So I got some parenting books from the library, and I've been working the recovery steps in my life recovery Bible, and I mean, that's pretty much it.
Well, Ms. Farber, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're not ready. I don't entertain any illusions that you're ready. And my thing is, you need to recognize that. My first question was to myself, well, why would she even want to get out? I mean, you've been in a life of addiction for a long time. You've made a mess of your own life. You've made a mess of your kids' life. You've made a mess of your mom's life. And instead of recognizing that you've got a long road to hoe, you're trying to get out as soon as you can. And I will tell you what's going to happen is you're going to immediately go back into the same situation that got you here in the first place. I don't see where you've done anything or come to any real realization of the severity of your problem or the impact that it's had on your mom. I feel sorry for her. She's having to take care of 5 babies.
I do too, honestly. I'm being very sincere when I say that. I really want to change. I've seen a psychiatrist. I've been put on medication for depression, anxiety, and me and my mom, we both talked about going to programs when I get out of here and things that, to help me stay on the road to recovery. I really, really want it. I really do. It has nothing to do with getting out of jail. I really want to be home with them. I want to change. I want to be a better mother. I really do. A better daughter,
And that may be, Ms. Bob, but my sense is you're still not ready. You're not ready. Okay? You've got a lot more work to do. And I think if you were to get out now, it'd be a formula for failure. So, thank you. And that's all the questions I have.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Law, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir. I just want to say that I feel like we're all human and we all make mistakes, and I feel like, I've learned my lesson. I want to change. I want to be there for my children. I really do. I really wish that you would just give me a chance,
All right, yes, ma'am, thank you. Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Bobby? Mr. Bill. Bonnie, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. All right, Ms. Fabre, I hope that you have reached the point where you're ready to change, but I just don't believe it right now. I really don't believe it right now. I don't think you're ready to get out. I don't think you're equipped to be successful. You have absolutely no programming while in jail. May not be your fault, but you don't have anything that you need to equip you to be out of jail. Law enforcement is opposed. The judge, the DA, and the sheriff, which means they're all familiar with you.
Yeah, it was my ex-boyfriend, I was hanging around in the wrong crowd. I chose to, it was my fault, I let him around and I chose to be around him. It was my addiction. It's my addiction, but I don't feel like.
I know you don't. I know you don't. Okay? But my vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Wise.
At this time, I'm going to concur. No programs, strong law enforcement opposition, also DA's opposition, and I'm going to vote to deny.
You have 2 votes to deny. Same thing here. We'd like for you to get out. We're not in the business of keeping everybody in, but we can't let you out if you're not ready to get out. You need the programs and the tools, because it's about staying out. It's about staying out, not getting out. So I vote to deny as well. Keep working. I will try to get whatever you can get. You've got short term in prison there. You'll be out in December. Keep working hard. Try to get as many programs as you can between now and then. 3 votes to deny. Your parole's been denied. Thank you.
Okay, well,
We'll talk to your staff there. They'll get with you and they can get with DOC. Okay, we'll adjourn at 12:31 at St. Charles. Thank you.
Well, I mean, this is her at her initial arrest picture, and you can see meth is never friendly to you. She actually, it's like you can't even tell it's the same person. She wasn't kidding when she said she felt and looked better, but Miss Jackson was right on to her and called her out for what it was. I mean, she's been around the block long enough to know, like, why do you want to get out? You had 5 kids then, you have 5 kids now. You're a poor mother, and she quickly, like the addict mind, she quickly cycles through what she can. Going from it was her boyfriend's fault to it was, I don't know, like every trying to like, what can I say? I mean, there was nothing she could say or do to get out, and like they said, she was getting released anyways in something like 5 months. But it seems that she has, for at least a couple of years, stayed out of trouble until she's locked back up on as of June 13, 2023. I can't share the article screen with you because it mentions her address, but here's the I'll read it to you. She was arrested for intentionally harboring an individual who was from arrest for felony crime. Deputies determined on May 27th Lacey was in a relationship with an individual. I wonder if that's her same boyfriend, huh? Who was wanted on charges of simple criminal damage to property and flight from an officer. At all times, relevant detectives believe that Stacy was aware of the outstanding warrants and for the arrests and was knowledgeable of his whereabouts, although she denied having such knowledge. And you just got to say, her poor kids, her poor mother, right? On June 12th, 2023, uniformed patrol officer observed Lacey and Drake, which is her boyfriend. A deputy attempted to make contact with both subjects, but they fled on foot. Or she said Drake fled on foot. She didn't. She was arrested and booked on charges of accessory after the fact, and she remains incarcerated with a bond of $25,000. You would think with a good attorney, you could get out of that and have them release you, but who knows? We'll keep you posted if she comes up for a revocation hearing. Thanks, Richard, for the info. But man, Miss Jackson, there's nothing like a good Miss Jackson hearing, right for the jugular. And with that, I'll
Brief comment regarding that absconder charge there. If my math is correct, it's approximately a 30-year-old absconder warrant. My client has not had any police contact whatsoever for the past approximately 30 years.
You can't make it up. 1994 was when she absconded, and now some police officer arrested her on a warrant. She's sitting here facing a parole revocation over 30 years later. Let's watch this hearing and I'll unpack it at the end.
Good morning, Ms. Stewart.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Have your attorney here. So we're here today for your revocation hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning, Ms. Stewart.
Good morning.
Yep.
Good morning, I am P.O. Meissner, a hearing examiner for the Board of Pardons and Paroles. This is a revocation hearing concerning Stewart Land number 192592. Today is April 17, 2024. This hearing is being conducted via video at the BLPP Central Office, New York Correctional Institution. This is a public hearing, public access. This hearing is available via video live stream. Could you please state for me your full name and DOC inmate number for the record?
Sure. Luann Stewart, 192592.
Thank you. And your counsel here today?
Attorney Alfonso Storico, public defender with the parole revocation unit on behalf of Ms. Stewart.
Okay, so you now review the charge, state your PO is bringing against you, and information underlying each charge. So on charge 1, under release restriction absconder, your charging officer reported on 6/21/1994, a warrant for re-imprisonment was signed declaring Luann Stewart an absconder from the Department of Correction Board of Parole. And the state filed the following exhibits that are pre-marked for identification purposes. Exhibit A, signed warrant. B, remain under custody order. C, parole violation notice. And D is DOC parole release conditions. And did you receive notice of parole violation report, and the other documents I marked, and did you review them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And counsel filed the following exhibit that is pre-marked for identification purposes. Defense Exhibit 1, list of parole accomplishments with future plans for parole reinstatement. Do you need to continue to contain any additional evidence? We have no witnesses, so it's now defense's opportunity to speak to.
Yeah, just.
I will note that on the addendum that I received does say there was a absconder warrant issued on 6/21/94.
Correct.
So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna announce my findings. So on charge 1, I do find that you violated condition of restriction absconder. This is based on a warrant being issued by the BOPP and evidence provided exhibits A, C, and D. So that includes the fact-finding portion of the hearing. Before I make a recommendation, council will have an opportunity to speak to your background and history. This purpose part of the hearing is how to outcome I will recommend. So if you'd like to.
Yes, if I may, my client, Ms. Stewart, she's gonna be 68 years old this month. She does have 3 children. She self-reported to us that in 1979, she did receive her master's in criminal justice from New York University in New York. And from 1979 to 1981, she's reported to us she completed 2 years of law school at NYU, New York University, following her master's degree. And Ms. Stewart was married at the time and became pregnant. That's why she stopped attending law school. She's been in Connecticut a minimum for the last 10 years. I believe the warrant indicates she was picked up at a facility in the London area. She does have her primary care services established in Grimes. As you can see, she does use a walker, and she does suffer from physical ailments. She's currently housed in the medical unit at York Correctional Institution due to her current medical conditions. Upon reinstatement to parole, hopefully she's hoping to return to the London Homeless Hospitality Center in London. They were in the process of assisting her with housing. She is on disability. And that's where we are. As I believe, I don't have one. It looks like on February 20th, she was located at a homeless shelter in London by the fugitive youth. As I indicated, no police involvement for the past 30 years.
I just want to ask you something. I'm gonna swear you in. So I just want to talk to you for 1 second.
And don't answer her question until I give you the okay, Ms. Stewart?
Can you raise your right hand for me, please? You solemnly swear or solemnly affirm as the case may be, the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
I'm just wondering, did you know you were on parole still?
I thought it was, no, I thought it was over. I didn't know. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know they were still looking for me.
As I indicated, she's been in Connecticut for minimum the last 10 years at least.
All right, so based on the information that I have received as evidence, based on testimony that's received today, there's no other violations. Your EOS date is 4/17 of 25. Okay, so just so you know, you're on supervision until then. So you need to, listen to your parole officer until that date, which will move because you are discretionary parole. So I just want to let you know too that I can't put you at the homeless hospitality place because that's not a DOC funded halfway house program. So your officer can work to put you there or find you housing, just so you know. They would work with you to find you an appropriate placement. So I am going to recommend that parole be revoked. You re-paroled for April 25th, 2024. This ends up being a little over 2 months period of confinement as a sanction. I'm going to recommend the following parole conditions, which is halfway house placement so that they can place you somewhere for housing. and give you assistance to get yourself, better situated. You had no instance since you haven't been here, and so I do take that into consideration, which is why I'm recommending that you be released on my board review date, which is April 25th. So the board's going to review it that day. So they can agree with me, or they can make it longer if they do want to. That is a possibility. They would let you know that you'd have a supplemental hearing and talk to you if they decided they want a longer sanction than what I have recommended. You are discretionary parole, so that's an on or after date. So if they parole you that day, you're not guaranteed to leave that day. You can leave, a month from that date. They have to work to get you appropriate housing. Do you have any questions about anything?
Okay, I have one quick question. Okay, so you're saying I would be discharged April 25th of this year?
It's on or after though, Ms. Stewart, because you're on discretionary parole. If you were on special parole, the policy is you have to be released that day, but because you don't fall under that category, it's on or after. So if the board adopts you being re-paroled on April 25th, because of your status, it might not, more likely than not, will not be April 25th, it'll be after April 25th. Hopefully shortly thereafter though.
Okay, and would somebody notify me?
Yes, the parole officer is gonna come and review the documents with you, and as the hearing examiner indicated to you, you're on supervision until April of next year. So you need to follow what your parole officer tells you to do.
Sir. Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank
good
you.
luck to you.
Thank you. Am I done?
Yeah.
Done.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And you both have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
This just blows my mind. I mean, are you kidding me? Okay, if you want to just to unpack this, the board revoked her for whatever reason. Maybe they had to, but it was like a 5-day sanction. So she's getting out. We have on our records that the other board agreed. So she's out. But I mean, let's just imagine what happened. Let's pretend that this what causes a police officer to go to grandma to obtain her information and find out that she has a 30-year-old warrant from 1994, and he cuffs her, puts her in the back of a police car, and sends her to jail? You can't make it up. You got to be kidding me. I mean, surely you would be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I mean, come on. She does not have a single new charge in 30 years. Someone's got to apply for a pardon for her. Gosh, you can't make it up. That's criminal. You're going to lock her up. That's, to me, I'm going to call that just, with all the crime that's going on today, with all of what's happening in our streets, in our stores, with bail reform and letting criminals back on the street on their own recognizance and all of this crap, and they lock a grandma. You really can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's not my style, but I was really tempted to play some type of music as she comes in on her walker there. You know, wow, you guys are real. You're doing a great job, DOC Connecticut. You're protecting your citizens. I really didn't know what to do with this hearing. I'm going to use it again in the future. I'm gonna have it sandwiched in between like the hardened criminal thug and the cockroach, and we'll have those two really tough hearings, and as the parole board lets them go and says, okay, no problem, you can go back out. Yeah, oh, it's your like 12th revocation. I don't, no big deal. Here you go. It was an 8-year-old child. That's what's the who you go, but grandma, okay, we're revoking. You should be here another 5 days. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. I mean, I don't know why the parole board wasn't more like intrigued as I am. Maybe you are by this. You know, they didn't ask questions. You're like, so what's going on? How, you know, what's been happening in the past 30 years? And it was interesting hearing the attorney talk about actually what kind of education she had and aspirations for in her life, and things kind of went sideways for her. But to find yourself back in jail, man, I have nothing to share with you because the records that even look at, there's nothing there. She has nothing on her records. What she was locked up for in 1991 was a controlled substance, probably the devil's lettuce. Unbelievable. They ask her, did you know that you were revoked? That's really the question you ask? Like, could you not find some humor in it and maybe some frustration that she's sitting in front of you here? She's basically as old as my dad. Unbelievable. She did move pretty well though with that walker when she got out. I was like, oh, you know, she was a little more agile than maybe she was putting on. But man, I don't know what else to say. Just tell me your just validate my feelings, please. Anyways, thank you, Richard, for calling this hearing out. I warn you, go to Connecticut, just buy bottled water. Don't drink the water. With that,